Welcome to More Than a Parent, a podcast exploring who we are and what we want outside of being a parent, so we can create an integrated lifestyle with impact both in and out of our homes. I'm Kaz Gaddis, and I invite you to join me to be your more, live your and. Welcome to More Than a Parent. I'm Kaz Gaddis, a personal power coach for parents, specifically moms who are wanting to live their more, be their and. What that means specifically is that I coach moms intentionally to create inner aligned lifestyles that energize both their presence as parents and also actualize who they are in their personal power. So what's important about this episode is this is pure power, guys. Before I even go into that piece, let me share with you a little bit about, I guess, everything going on. So we are obviously in a pandemic globally as a community. We are feeling it in all sorts of ways. There's a lot of different energies going around, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term empath. Usually it's someone that, not usually, but what it is it's someone who kind of feels all the feels, not just their own, but of others. And I think I underestimated how much of an empath I am, because up until last week, for a few days, I was feeling almost paralyzed. I was feeling all the feels going on globally, going on in the community, in other communities that I'm part of moms, everybody. This is affecting everyone. And so I was in a place where it wasn't like I was depressed. I've been there before, I know what that feels like. It was more of paralyzed by the feelings and then just kind of going through the motions of the day. If you resonate with this, if you've ever been in a situation like that, you know it is, you can get lost in that, right? Like you can just continue to go just through the motions instead of showing up. And so I allowed myself to have a space of feeling that, of being in that for a few days, because it obviously needed to come out. And so I did that piece, and then I told myself, okay, cool. I've been here before where I've allowed myself to feel something for a certain amount of time, and what is the next thing now, right? Because when we are feeling paralyzed, especially how easily that is as moms, as parents in this time that we're in, we have a choice. So feel the feels so that they are felt and not just continue to be submerged, because they will pop up again, and likely in situations and in ways that you prefer them not to. But looking like, okay, cool. So my choices are, I can stay paralyzed. I can stay in just going through the motions in a way that's not serving anyone, especially not yourself. And then you're adding to the noise of the things that aren't serving anybody. Or I can choose to allow that fear to fuel my power. And so be empowered in that pause, right? So that pause to feel the things, that pause to then be like, in a place of reflection for what is possible. And so I started to choose, obviously, to be empowered in that. And I was able to not only connect more to myself. When you have moments that you allow yourself to have higher consciousness and you kind of flex that higher awareness in yourself, you're also able to see more potential, more possibilities, more opportunity. And so I thought, okay, cool. So what is the next best thing in the situation? How can I be part of something that empowers somebody else, especially if you're feeling in any way, shape, or form anxious or fear-filled or paralyzed, just in all the things, right? And so I reached out over the last week and a half. I reached out to several moms that I know, and then I also opened it up to the greater community to share some productivity tips, and I'll also be doing another episode with self-care tips. And so with this episode being the productivity one, we are in a place now where most of us are home with our kids. We're having to figure out homeschool like we've never had to do before. We're also having to be productive by either bringing our work home with us if we were working from out of the house, or now our business and our normal flow may be looking different with everybody at the house. there's a lot of incomes being lost. There is a lot of different uncertainties going on, right? But amidst it all, there is, if you choose to see it, there is possibility, there is opportunities, there is a moment to regather, to reframe for yourself, for your family, and then what does that mean like overall, right? So I asked these moms to share tips on either productivity or on self-care that could really serve us right now during this pandemic that we're in, because that way we can start contributing voices of empowerment, of possibility, versus just hearing a lot of the negative pieces, which some of it is definitely real, but we don't have to fully focus on that. Otherwise, it consumes us in a negative way. And again, not that it's wrong to feel quote unquote negative emotions. I don't believe in negativity. I really believe that those things, I call it, a certain group of us, we call it catabolic energy, which is just a type of energy that can fuel you. You have to feel it. It's part of being human, but you don't have to be sucked into the kind of like the winding piece of it consuming you in a bad way. So anywho, so for the resources shared today, this is going to be an interesting podcast. We're going to have a bunch of people joining us and sharing with us productivity for the now, productivity for this uncertainty that we're in. If you go to kazgaddis.com, that's CAZGADDIS.com, /podcast, you'll see all of it there. And specifically for this episode, if you go to kazgaddis.com /EOO9, that's for episode 009, that'll be the one here that we're going to be sharing on productivity. In that website, we'll also have the show notes as far as everyone's information. They all are sharing different freebies, different resources that'll all be available for you there. And there is a mega download with a bunch of everything that everyone is sharing. I'm calling it More Than a Parent Roundup Guide. So you'll be able to access that there.
Hi, I'm Leanne Page from Parenting with ABA. I'm an author, a parent coach, a behavior analyst, and a mom of 2 little people, ages 5 and 3. And so now, as we are in a new world, right, as life has changed, so many of us are trying to figure out how to be productive at home with our kids. And my easiest to do tip based on the science of behavior is simply to fill their buckets. And what does that mean? That means pour into them first and then do what you need to do. So what that looks like, let's say you have a 30-minute period of time. Spend the first 5 minutes with your kid, focused on them. Put the phone down, put the distractions down. We're not doing the dishes and chatting with them at the same time. We're not doing email and chatting at the same time. Undivided attention for just 5 minutes, doing their favorite thing, whether that's playing Legos, coloring a picture, talking about a video game, watching them do a video game, reading a book together, whatever they're really into, do it with them for 5 minutes. It's not a time to ask a lot of questions. It's not a time to be, oh, well, what color is this Lego? And we're trying to teach things. No, it is playtime for 5 minutes. And then mommy has to go work. Okay, our 5 minutes is over. And I'm going to work for 25 minutes. And here are options that you can do while I'm working and have them set up with some independent activities that they're capable of doing. Set a timer. There you go. Pouring into them those first 5 minutes, filling their buckets, is using a couple of different evidence-based strategies of behavior analysis that I won't bore you with, but you can trust me, there's been some research behind that that will help them to refrain from engaging in attention-seeking behaviors while you're trying to work, which basically in a nutshell means they're not going to pester you while you're trying to get your stuff done. So first, give in to them. First, pour it all into them. Undivided attention. It's called non-contingent reinforcement. They don't have to earn it. It's nothing special. And then work on getting some stuff done for yourself and repeat this pattern over and over and over and over all day long. The first few minutes is for them, and then the next however long you can, depending on their ages, is for you. And when you're doing something based on time, use a timer. If I'm like, okay, well, time's up and I need to go work now, and they're like, but you need to play with me longer, and it can become a whole thing. It can turn into a power struggle, turn into whining and issues. Set a timer. The timer on your phone, on your Google, your Alexa, whatever, goes off And that's that. And we're not going to argue with Google or Siri or Alexa. The timer says it's time and we need to move on. So really think about filling their buckets first so it's full. And then you need them to have some in there while you have to pour it out by saying, Mommy's busy for 25 minutes. And try it. It's easy. Way to break up your day and use timers to help prevent those power struggles. You can get a lot more done.
Hey there, my name is Lisa Michaud, and I'm a speaker, coach, and host of Golden Girls Podcast. My specialty is helping women have the courage to claim their dreams and then turn them into goals they'll actually achieve. I'm coming to you guys with some tips. I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and my husband works away a lot for 2 weeks at a time, so I'm a solo parent. Full disclosure here. I am still trying to figure this out in this new space, and I'm really excited to hear what all the other tips are on this episode too. But here are a few things that have helped me out. Here are some of the things that I do to try and maintain at least some productivity levels while working from home with kiddos. The first thing is to know my personality and my work style, and also my kids, their ages, their personalities, all those things, and work to match that as best as possible. Now, I know any of us listening, your ages and personalities, they're going to vary wildly. Some children might nap 6 or 8 hours a day, hello newborns, and others might nap not at all. Some are happy to play independently, and some are going to need extra attention. These are things that we really can't control, and we all just have to do our best to match those things out. Now, the second thing, I think this is actually a beautiful chance for all of us to figure out exactly what our non-negotiables are. And I mean this in both our work and our personal life. So think about the work. What actually really needs to get done? What are the couple things that you can do that are going to have the biggest impact, and focus on those? And same thing with your personal non-negotiables. Understand what those things are that you need and be flexible with literally everything else. Seriously, like chores, showers, workouts, whatever non-negotiable might be to me, it might be flexible for you and vice versa. It's really important here in this time to really get into yourself, know what you need, know what your kiddos do, what your kiddos need, and focus on that. Now, something that's helped me too is to really understand what I can and can't do with my kid. So for example, I actually take a lot of conference calls and masterminds with my daughter there. Meanwhile, I usually do podcast recordings by myself in my office, and client calls, I have to make sure that she's not around because I need to bring my A game. So having that understanding of what I can include her in and what I can't makes it easier for me to plan my days and my week and do a bit of normal scheduling. Make sure when you are actually working that you shut down all other distractions. Trust me, kids are distracting enough. Put your phone away, turn your email notifications off, everything away. Try working in small sprints, like what can you do in 20 minutes, and set a timer and go. Even though my kid is only 2, I still let her know what's going on, and I try and talk to her and include her where it's possible. And honestly, I'm releasing some screen time guilt here. If it's working for her, it is working for me. Now, when it's time to put the work away, it's also really important to be as present as I can with her. Something I'm really focusing on right now, and I encourage you to do the same, is to make memories. Make sure to do something fun with your kids every day. Whether it is a walk, whether it is time in your backyard, a swim, a bath time, a dance party, whatever it is, and as I record this, you guys, is laundry to be done, and I literally cleaned poop off of a window this morning. But we've been able to play bubbles and hopscotch and dance, and it makes it it just brings the joy back to life. And that is what is so important, especially in times where we feel stressed and can feel this need to be productive. We also need to make memories. Release the pressure to have a perfect home. My goodness, you guys, I know this is hard, but we could literally spend our whole life cleaning up after children. Decide what your enough is and that level. For me, I'm spending 20 to 30 minutes a day, sometimes maybe a little more, sometimes a little less. I'm listening to a podcast, an audiobook, or learning from an online course. And it's my time, either early in the morning or after my daughter goes to sleep. I know what my enough is, and I'm releasing the pressure to have everything be perfect and clean. Now, one more thing while I'm trying to be with my kiddo is I literally set a timer away from my phone. I set a timer for 30 minutes, put my phone away from me. And I know that's kind of embarrassing to share, but it's a habit for me. And I know for a lot of us to just reach for our phone. I'm still working on this, but I find you setting limits away from my phone does help. Lastly, look for fun things to do together. So far, we've done piano meditation online. We've done dance parties and music classes. We do workouts. It is not perfect, but this is about learning to dance in the rain instead of trying to control the weather around us. Before I go, I just want to say this. Give yourself some grace. If you're anything like me, you might be yelling at your kids more or getting frustrated sooner. The worst thing that you can do is guilt yourself more. This really is a chance for all of us to be present to all of the mess. Acknowledge your mistakes to yourself and to your kids. Don't let yourself get overrun with guilt or negativity. You cannot guilt yourself into becoming a better parent or human or leader. Use this as a connection point with you and your kids, and be honest when you're struggling and making mistakes. Give yourself and those around you the permission to get it wrong, And I really believe we're all going to be amazed at the growth and positivity that we'll end up feeling and getting from this experience. So that's all for me. Happy work from home.
Hey there, my name is Marie Moss. I own the company Dangerously Good Stories. Thank you, Kaz, for having me on here. I know it doesn't really sound like it. Do you hear that? It's quiet. It's the first time I've had quiet all day. I'm in this with so many of you watching who have your kids home when you're used to working. Your life is a little different right now. As a writer, as a photographer, as a creative, I thrive when my two kids are at school. They are 8 years old and 6 years old. I have a girl and a boy. And my son, the 6-year-old, he has ADHD and ODD on like the real like hyperactive side of things. So I love the school hours. So I've got some noise reducing activities that I'm going to share with you that I think are a little bit different because they are going to allow you to be productive in your business and also present with your family. And I think that there's so much division with what we do. Okay, I've got my business hat on and I've got to talk like a business owner. And then there's who we are as parents, and it doesn't have to be such a separation. So the main activity that I want to send to you is notice your people. And I have it in a PDF form. You can read it on my website. You can go to dangerouslygoodstories.com/more-than-a-parent. And I've put together a few resources for you there. And that the Notice Your People will be right at the top. And what this is it's going to allow you to dig into some of your personal stories. So while we're all at home with our families, with our partners and our kids, or maybe we're FaceTiming grandparents, and what a better time than to bring up conversations around our family stories. So the short version of the Notice Your People exercise is this. You pick a person, do one person at a time, but you can do this for as many people as you want. Think your immediate core family, your parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, whoever. It could be your neighbor, like people in your community, acquaintances, friendships, anyone. And I want you to write that one name down and then think of the top, like the first 3 memories that come to mind when you think of that person. Jot those down. You don't got to write out full-blown stories, but just like a few words that will trigger whatever that story is. And then I want you to think about that vivid mental image of what that person looks like. Like, what do you see when you think of mom, or you think of your wife or your husband or your child or whoever? Write that out. The story I always tell is when I think of my mom, I think of her in her denim jean jacket with Mickey Mouse on the back, and she's got a bottle of Diet Mountain Dew in her hand. Like, that's my mom. So stuff like that, write that down for the people in your life. And then you can go even deeper and think of how they've made an impact on your life. Like, what have you really learned from that person? And then a question that's a little bit deeper, and it might be a little bit scary, but if this was the last conversation you were going to have with that person, what would you want to say to them? Write all this stuff down and then go back through it. And number one, I think you'll find that there's a lot of the things that you have written down that you probably haven't documented. And from somebody who has lost a best friend and all of my grandparents, it's really interesting to see some of these stories in hindsight and to know that I've missed the opportunity to document them. Look for those things on there that can be like a little scavenger hunt of things that you can record in photos or in audio. Maybe there's somebody who answers the phone in a certain way or something like that. So look for those things on that website that I'm sending you to, the URL, dangerouslygoodstories.com/more-than-a-parent. That will have the full Notice Your People exercise in there. And I've given you different ideas of what you can do with those stories that come up. So how does this relate to your business? Honestly, these stories that come up, some of them are perfect for sharing with your audience if you are a personal brand, because they want to hear about your brand. They want to hear about what you're about and how you serve and all of that. But they also want to hear about you. And it's one thing for us to share, oh, I love coffee, I love chocolate chip cookies, I love my life in the mountains. That's actually a true story. I live in the mountains and I run my online business with no Wi-Fi at home, so which is really interesting and fun. Those things are all interesting, but think of the stories that have changed you. How can you really create some depth in your business with personal stories? Just try it. It might be fun, and you're cultivating these conversations with your family all at once. So again, the URL is dangerouslygoodstories.com/more-than-a-parent. I've added all of those resources there, as well as some other noise reducing activities that I think you'll enjoy. I'm running out of time, so I've got to cut this off. But thank you for listening, and thanks, Kaz, again for having me on.
So we're all spending a lot more time in our homes right now, and normally I am in other people's homes helping them organize their spaces. I'm a consultant trained in the KonMari method, so if you're planning to use some of your time right now to organize your space as a part of your self-care plan, then I have a couple of tips to get you started and a couple of tips related to kids. So when I'm working with clients in their home before they start making any decisions around what to keep and what to discard, we have a conversation about what's important to them and what they want more of in their space and how they like to spend their time. And it's really important to get clear on that and to get really grounded in the present and to use that information to help them move through the process of deciding on what they're keeping and what they're letting go of in their space. So that would be step one. And this can also be modified for kids and their individual rooms. And this can kind of give them a little bit of control over their space at a time when they and pretty much everybody were kind of craving some certainty and craving a little bit of control over our lives and our environments. So that can be modified for kids. They can think of a couple of words that describe how they want to feel in their space and use that information as they're going through items in their room. And just want to pause to say I have a 3-year-old, so I'm not dealing with this challenge currently, but I understand from my friends who have school-age kids that e-learning has been quite a steep learning curve and very hard to implement as parents if you're working from home right now. So I recognize that, saying, oh, kids can organize their rooms I'm not trying to add one more thing to the already growing list of things that people are trying to accomplish while they're at home. But if this is something that can work into your plan on keeping yourselves busy and your kids busy, it may be something that is helpful to everyone. So just acknowledging that and thinking of a couple of ways to help kids get started as well, other than saying just go organize your room, giving them a place to get started with weeding out clothes that are too small or toys that are clearly toys that are from a different phase in their life. Might be some ways to help them get started in their space. And one last tip that is not organizing related, but I would just say that now is the time to use the good stuff. So if you've got those good candles you've been holding on to, that nice bottle of wine, whatever it is in your space that makes you feel wonderful, use it and enjoy this time with your family.
Well, there you have it. We just had a bunch of amazing humans share with you different productivity tips, insights, techniques, tools that have helped them be able to figure out this new level of productivity with having everyone in the house. I hope that this serves you. I appreciate you. I am wishing you nothing but the best during this time of mega transition and mega integration in our lives. And while it may not feel like it sometimes, you totally got this.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than a Parent. To be your more, live your and.
Continue the conversation and connect at facebook.com/groups/more than a parent.